Welcome to the Ministry Chick Network podcast. I'm Melissa Mashburn, and I am so excited that you're here. Listen, women in ministry are some of the most capable leaders I know. They're also some of the most lonely leaders I know. And not because they're doing anything wrong, but because they're often the only one in the room who looks like them, who leads like them, or carries what they carry. Today's guest is someone who has spent her career building rooms that changed that. So, Carrie Williams, let's dive in and get started on the conversation. First of all, thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited for what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, Melissa, I'm thrilled to be a part of this conversation. As you know, it's something that I'm extremely passionate about. And if we can pull in other women into this conversation that then scales out into the rest of the world to affect more women, then I'm all in.
Yeah, yes. This is kind of like your heartbeat in so many ways. And we'll get in that. But for those that are meeting you for the first time, can you just share a little bit about yourself, your journey, what you're doing today at Exponential Next, and also what drives you?
Yeah, sure. So I am a wife. I've been married for 26 and a half years to my amazing husband, who is an executive pastor at the Church of 1122, a church that we helped plant. We were both on the executive staff when we launched. And we have two beautiful daughters who are now adulting, which is so crazy to think about. So I have a 19 and a 20-year-old who are in that adult-ish stage of life with all the exciting things that come with that. And I currently serve as the executive director of Exponential Next, which is part of Exponential. If you don't know what Exponential is, we are an organization that serves the church. I mean, that's the best way to say it. We are here to help the church reproduce and multiply more churches.
Yeah.
Our goal is to see 16% of churches in the United States of America and the world become reproducing or multiplying churches, because that is the tipping point that shows us that when 16% buy into something, it becomes a new normative. And in order for us to keep up with the population growth, the number of churches closing, and the number of people who need to know Jesus, we need to hit that 16% tipping point where churches are reproducing and multiplying. And so I get to wear the hat under Exponential, sit on the executive team and speak into our direction. It's an honor and a privilege to be a part of that leadership team. I get to serve with some of the most amazing friends on mission. And then my specific role is, you can think of it like R&D for the church. So I get to do anything that is shaping the future of the church right now. That includes anything from next gen to women to expressions of the church that are emerging, research, and all kinds of other fun things. So I really genuinely think I have the best job in the world.
I do think you're pretty correct.
Yeah.
It is a pretty amazing organization, a credible team of people, and what you're doing is making such a huge difference. So thank you for that. Listen, you and I have been friends for several years now. You mentioned that you were part of the 1122 launch. You led the Truth Republic. You shared your story in my book right there. And for the woman that's listening who is just meeting you, what is the thread that kind of connects all of those chapters of your story?
Yeah, that's a great question, Melissa. Because looking back, like I would never have thought that I'd end up where I am right now. You know, I never set out to have like a ministry career or to become something specific within the ministry context. I really just gave God my best yes in an act of obedience. And along the way, my yes just became this thread that led me to where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I learned along the way something very, very valuable and important, because there were many times that I felt like God was asking me to do something that maybe didn't make sense or that I didn't fully understand. And what I learned is that understanding can wait, but obedience cannot.
Oh,
So I would say that has been the thread throughout my life. Like, just, yes, God, I will say yes to what you're asking of me, no matter what it looks like, no matter how much it stretches me, no matter how much it challenges me, no matter if I think I should be at that table or not, no matter if I'm certain of what that table even is, and everything in between. So yeah, obedience is really the key.
Oh my goodness. That was like, I feel like that could have been a mic drop and we could just sit here on that because you're doing it afraid. Um, you're taking self out of it and you're really just saying, you lead, I follow,
That's right.
right? You lead, I follow.
I mean,
I
at the end of the
don't
day,
even
what
have the
other
permission
option
to
do we have? Right? Like,
go kicking and screaming in our own way.
well, I mean, how well does that work out for us?
Never ever works
Don't
out.
fight it, right? Like if if you're a follower of Jesus and he's ever asked you to do something, you've been there where you
Yeah.
are that kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're either going to end up miserable or you're going to end up saying yes, or you're going to end up doing both. So why not just skip the miserable and go straight to, I trust you. Let's
Yeah.
do this. Let's go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my, that could be a shirt or a hat. Like
For
all
sure.
the merch could be like all of that. I love it. I love it. Well, you've talked about some of these places that you are, or not places that you ever thought that you would be or set out to be or whatever, but you've also spent your career in rooms that most women in ministry never get access to. What do you notice about the women who navigate those rooms well? And what is usually true about their support system?
That's good. Good question, Melissa. Um, yeah, it's true that I've spent a lot of time in rooms where there are, limited number of women and usually a lot of men. And what I have noticed in those women who represent themselves well, that's probably the best way to say it, is that I've noticed that their confidence does not lie within themselves. So I've noticed the women who have a tendency to look at themselves when they're entering into a circumstance like that um, can become intimidated, can shrink back, can shy away because they're looking at themselves, right? Like when we
Yeah.
look at ourselves, we see all the things we know about ourselves that are true about our faults, our weaknesses, our incapabilities. And as women, we tend to hone in on those things instead of the God-given skills, gifts, talents, experiences, insight, the things that God has instilled in us for the sake of his kingdom, for the sake of the world flourishing. And so
Yeah.
what I've noticed is that women walk in with a confidence level, not in who they are or themselves, but in God and who he's created them to be, recognizing
Mm.
that God is the one who gives any capability.
Yeah.
God is the one who has gifted any woman with anything that she walks in that is worthy of being heard, listened to, learned from. It's all from God anyway. And
Yeah.
so I would say in those rooms that the confidence that women bring is placed in God alone. And I would say that you ask about the support system. The support system are the ones, those are those people who surround you when you forget that your confidence is in God and start looking at yourself going, oh, I'm this, I can't do that. I know my weaknesses. I know my failures. I know my inadequacies. The support system are always the ones, at least for me and the women that I'm close to that I've been in rooms like that with, that are the ones who are there cheering you on, reminding you when you have those moments when you're looking at yourself
Yeah.
to remind you to look back at God and find your confidence in him and him alone.
That's good. What does it actually cost a woman in ministry when she is leading without the right people around her? Not some super dramatic version, but the slow version that kind of happens over time.
What I have seen through my experience is that women become lonely.
Mm.
They become drained. They become, I mean, at the end of the day, what it really boils down to is potentially the worst version of yourself. Because
Uh,
we were never meant to do this alone. We were
yeah.
meant to do everything. We're meant to do life in community, right? We are a body, right? When God talks about us, he talks of us as a body. Like there is no funky finger detached from the body that still functions on its own, right? So like you're not a big toe floating out there by yourself. You're connected to the rest of the body. And so we were literally created to do these things together. Life, ministry, career, family, all of it. And so the biggest cost to it is that you become the worst version of yourself. And that
Mm.
means for yourself, you're depleted, you're lonely, you can get burnt out. On the outside, it affects every relationship that you have.
Mm,
Because that level of a safe place to be honest, Melissa,
yeah,
there's nothing more valuable. Like, so often
agreed.
I use this statement with people. You have to be honest with yourself to get honest with God and honest with others. And
Mhm.
all three of those are equally as important. If you're honest with yourself and honest with God, and you create that safe space with the Lord and with yourself, it's beautiful. But if you can't be honest with others, there's no growth involved. There's no one
Yeah.
breathing life into you that God has obviously placed around you to breathe life into you. Um, don't do it alone. I remember when I stepped into church leadership and I thought, oh, church leadership is lonely. That's just what it is. Like, this is just how it is. I
Right.
got to figure this out because it's just a lonely place. You can't trust people, or you can't get close to people, or you have to find people outside of this context. But if you do, maybe they don't fully understand you because they don't understand church leadership and all
Right.
things. And so I mean, there was this small season of my life where I gave into the lie that
Mm,
I had to do this alone. I was going to be lonely. Um, and I got to the place where I realized and recognized in myself that I was not the best version of myself.
yeah.
And God put me straight and helped me remember we're part of a body and I didn't have to do it alone. And so that really set me on a trajectory of all the things that you know me for,
Yeah.
of creating spaces where women aren't doing it alone.
I have seen the fruit of that in so many ways. Thank you for sharing that. And I love the honest with yourself, honest with God, and honest with others. You have to have all three.
That's right.
You have to have all three, and that makes a lot of sense. Well, not only do you talk about how important it is to have safe spaces and all of this, you've created it, but you also have it yourself. And I know it wasn't that long ago that you got back from a few days in Kansas City
Yeah.
with a group of women leaders laughing and praying, taking care of your hearts in a safe space. What does that kind of community actually do
Hmm.
for you that the work alone can't?
Well, first, I'll say this, Melissa. That community did not fall into my lap. It
Yeah.
did not just overnight become something that, happened. I was very intentional to seek out women and bring them together in an environment where we could be, again, honest with each other and just real. Um, and so I had to work at it. I had to, friendship takes work, and
Mhm.
I had to work to make it happen. And so, many years ago, I think it was about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I got this group of women together and said, "Hey, let's meet up in Waco, Texas, and we're going to go to Magnolia Farms, and we're going to have, not an agenda mapped out, but we will have some conversation that is specifically led by each of us around different matters of our heart."
Yeah.
And that just grew into this friendship where now, fast forward, we were just in Kansas City, and what it does for me, Melissa. Um, we call each other our ride or die. And so what that looks like for me is we do laugh together. I mean, we really laugh hard together. We cry together. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a good girl session if there's not some tears being shed about things that are really hard and
Yeah.
things that are painful and things that even tears about beautiful things, like rejoicing in good news about friends like
Mm,
Melissa, that brings tears to my eyes. I cry over those kind of things. And then, we share, our challenges, our
yeah.
hopes, our dreams. We spend time praying together. And what it does for me, it's like a booster shot. I mean, it's like a jab to my soul in the best possible way
Mm,
that helps fuel me to keep going in whatever's ahead of me. It
that's good.
it helps give me a groundedness
Yeah.
um, in moments where things feel, wishy-washy, or when things feel hard or complicated. I know I've got this crew of women that at any moment I can text and say, "Here's what's going on. I need prayer. Hey, ladies, I need some input. Hey, I need a phone call. they're just a safe place, and not just a safe place for the hard things, but a safe place for the good things and the beautiful things and the things we celebrate about what God is doing in our lives and through our lives.
I love that. And I know the women. They are one crazy, amazing, awesome group of women. And you said in the beginning that it didn't just happen. It didn't just fall into your lap and it was like one day, oh, we showed up in Waco and it was this and all these other things. You said, I intentionally sought out these friendships. And I think there's some wisdom in that. If this is what you're missing, then do the work to find it.
That's right.
They're there. They're around you. They're just waiting for somebody to go, hey, let's go to Waco and go to Magnolia and have cupcakes and laugh and talk and pray and all of the things. And it just takes that one person to kind of start it. And then look what God has done.
I think often the conversations I have with women is that they think like, oh no, they probably have their own group of friends. They're probably set. They're probably good. They're probably thriving. And the truth is, some are.
Yeah.
Some are not. But there's always room for more, no matter if they are or are not. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. And years ago, I started making these connections with women in Jacksonville. And as I was making these friendships and connections, I began to realize like this woman needs to know this woman and this woman should know this woman. And I don't have the capacity to have 500 coffees and, every week because I work full time and I'm a mom and all the things. And so what I decided to do is I created a once a month gathering for women that were in vocational ministry in the church context or the nonprofit sector and brought them together to have a meal together, to have conversation around hard topics and build relationships. Now, is that like the best format to form friendships in an intimate capacity? Probably not, but it's what I could do at the time. Yeah. And out of that, I've had some lifelong friendships that have come from that. And I watched how God connected those women in that space who are now also friends. Yeah. And so, again, though, somebody had to make the decision. Friendship is worth it. Doing this not alone is worth going out on a limb and inviting other people into whatever capacity you have to bring people into. It's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be all thought out. It's not an event at your church where you have to think through all the things. This is literally like, hey, let's go to dinner or let's go grab a coffee or or whatever. And grabbing a few other people and making it something like that. I literally did this same thing just yesterday.
Love it.
I fixed a group of women that I know here in South Texas, and I was like, let's just get together for lunch or dinner or coffee or something, but let's just get together and just celebrate like the good things that are going on in each other's life. And the next thing I know, it was like 5 women, bing, 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 bing. The phone started going off and everybody was like, now within an hour, we planned dinner and we're going to somebody's house because there's a missionary in town and we're going to share stories and talk about God's grace and goodness.
Love it.
And I'm like, okay, I needed that. And it just took one step.
That's right.
Text. I sent a text.
And I would rewind that step for the woman who is thinking like, well, you guys make it sound so easy. I would rewind to say, start by asking God for friends.
Mm-hmm.
Not just community. We all need, circles of community, but like true friends. If you're in a season of your life right now where it feels really lonely, first look up and look around. Who has God already put in your life that maybe, you've neglected or overlooked or haven't even realized that they've been leaning in, wanting to just be that connection point. But I would also say, not just look around at who God's already provided, but ask God to provide who he hasn't provided yet.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good God. He wants these things for us. He doesn't want us to do it alone. And so he's going to hear when you ask, he's going to hear. Tell him what you need. He already knows what you think you need. He already knows. So just open your mouth and ask him and watch him. Watch him do what he does best, which is love us and lavish his love on us.
Yeah. Yeah. thanks for taking that back a step. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. I've had a lot of good friends and a lot of friends all over the world, right?
Yeah.
But moving, then you're the new person and all of that. And that's exactly how I started
Yeah.
was, okay, God, I need friends locally to go to lunch with, to laugh with, to go watch movies with, to cry with. But I don't need just hangout friends. I need safe friends.
Yeah.
And I had to say very specifically that that's what I needed, and he gave it to me. And honestly, it's been one of the sweetest gifts in this season of being in Texas for the last 3 years was just to see how good he has been in even delivering. It seems like a small ask, but it's really not. And especially as you get older and especially as you're in different places and stages of life. So, and then you throw in the women in ministry element and it becomes a little bit more challenging,
Yeah.
but not
And
impossible.
mom with young ones, man,
Yes.
but play dates with other women who have kids, winner, winner. Like that's always a double, uh,
Double win.
BOGO. That's a buy one, get one free. You know what I
There
mean?
you
Yeah.
go. Well, from where you sit, working with the current and the next generation of church leaders across the country, what do you see happening to women in ministry who don't have the right community around them? And what does it do to their voice and their leadership over time?
I see them struggle, shrink back. I see them hold back and not step up to the plate in the way that I know that God has formed them to step up to the plate. And when I say step up to the plate, I don't mean in like some challenging way where they're like accomplishing some big thing or they're winning some kind of war. I just mean showing up as their full self. Like
Yes.
show up as your full self. Bring all of who God created you to be in whatever space he's put in front of you. And I don't care if that's, um, in a small group setting or a large group worship setting or a staff meeting or whatever it looks like. I've seen women not show up as their full self. And then
Yeah.
eventually, Melissa, now there's no research on this. Um, Probably because it's not necessarily, like a prioritized topic of conversation within the Big C church, but my gut tells me what I'm about to say is true. There are more women who leave the ministry than men um,
Mhm.
in all seasons of life. And
Mhm.
I watched that over and over again. I watched it when we started the Church of 1122. The men were excelling, they were excited, things were booming. The women were struggling, they were crying, they were
Mm.
balancing so much more and different kinds of things than the men were.
Yeah.
Um, and along the way, we lost some of the best women we had because the pace was crazy. It felt lonely. It was too much. Um, and they didn't have anyone speaking in their lives to say, "Hey, you have permission to slow down. You have permission
Mhm.
to," including myself. I was one of those women that was running 100 miles an hour. Um, And so I would say, the ultimate price that we pay for doing things alone that I've seen is that we don't have as many women on the front line, specifically in ministry. They fall back. They go to the safe house and tend to others' wounds in the safe house, but never get to the front line.
Yeah.
Uh, or they leave ministry altogether and end up using all those amazing gifts, abilities, and talents and
Yeah.
experiences um, probably for amazing things, but not necessarily the front line of church ministry or advancing the kingdom in that kind of
Yeah.
capacity. So yeah, that's the biggest price, and that's what I've seen.
Well, and I think you're not the only one seeing that. I think your gut is right because I know that I believe it was a Barna study, Barna or Pew Research, anyway, recently that was saying for the first time in a very long time, women are leaving the church
Yeah,
more than men. And I
specifically.
know that's not just
Yeah, that's
working.
specifically young women. That's a
Yeah.
research project that Barna did. You're referencing around church attendance, church growth, those kinds of things in the younger generation.
Right.
And what it showed and revealed is that there are more men, young men, um, frequently attending church and engaging in church than ever in the history
which is
of
amazing.
research, at
Right.
least. But women, for the first time in the research history, there are more women leaving, young women, not
Yeah.
older women, young women leaving the church, leaving the church. We're not just talking about staff, we're talking about women leaving church.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of reasons why we're seeing that, but I think what we just talked about is
Yeah.
one of them, is one of those reasons.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Well, speaking of like the next generation and the emerging leaders, you're equipping the next generation of church leaders. What do you want it to look like for the women that are coming up behind you? And what are you building so that they don't have to navigate what maybe some of the other generations have navigated alone?
What do I want it to look like? I want it to look like men and women working alongside one another,
Yeah.
uh, walking in the fullness God has for each person for the sake of the thriving and the flourishing of the kingdom in their families, in their neighborhoods, in the places that they work, in their
Yeah.
churches. We need women walking in the fullness of God for their lives, just as much as we need men walking in the fullness of God for their lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to see. That's what we're championing and cheering for, to remind both men and women that God has more for your life and that you can walk in that fullness. And without boundaries, without limitations, without glass ceilings, that kind of the untalked about glass ceilings that exist. And this is not a theological thing.
Yeah.
Whether you are complementarian or egalitarian, I want the same for you, that you would
Right.
in the fullness of God for your life in whatever context that is for you, as a woman. And so, it's really important to me. We're being very intentional, and within the exponential world, we have an entire area called Women Next that puts out monthly articles, podcasts. We do workshops and pre-cons at all of our conferences specific to women. So we continue to do that because we want to create an environment that's like a front door for women to feel welcome to walk through when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to all things church world, where sometimes it can feel a little bit like it's a man's world. And so we consider Women Next as like a front door, like saying, "Hey, you're welcome here. This
Yeah.
is a place for you. God has invited you into this space." And then specifically around young people, we are just creating environments where both men and women sit in the same room, contribute in the same way, and are being taught and learning and having the same kind of opportunities along the way. So
I love it. I love it. I'm so excited about what Exponential and Exponential Next has been doing in the last couple of years. It's really been very proactive. Instead of letting things drive it, y'all have been very proactive in going after what might be missing and helping out in those ways. So thank you for that. Um, Gosh, I have like two questions I'm wrestling with here, but I want to listen. Here's the thing. What would you say to the woman in ministry who is completely, incredibly capable? It's such a weird word, but capable is the word, right?
yeah.
She's incredibly capable, has been leading quietly, but she's staying small and she doesn't quite believe that she belongs in a bigger room. What does she need to hear? Specifically from you, because you've experienced that in a lot of ways, but what does she need to hear today?
First thing I would say is that you're not alone. You are not the only woman who is wrestling with these thoughts, with these feelings. Every single woman I know wrestles with the same thoughts and the same feelings. And statistically, it's actually been proven that there are two things that women need in order to step into a bigger space, whether that be a promotion into a bigger room or, step up for something that they feel is kind of risky even. Number one is to be invited.
Mm,
They always want to be invited first. The majority of women will never just step out, step up, push, ask, they wait to be invited. And so if you're a man listening, or you're a woman listening in a position that has space and room to invite women in, remember this part of this conversation. They need to be invited. And then the second thing is that women won't step into a risky space unless they're 100% sure that they can actually do whatever the job requires or whatever the task requires. Stats show women have to be 100% confident that they can do the thing. Those same statistics show that men only have to be 60% confident.
Yeah.
So if a man thinks he's like 60% is like, yeah, I think I can, step into that bigger room, or I can, preach the sermon when the pastor's out, or I can, whatever it is. So, go for the job that, is open, whatever your context is. If a man is 60% sure, he will go after that thing, girl. He will go for the bigger room. He will belly up to that table. He will do it. Women, stats show they will wait until they're 100% sure. And how often, ladies, are we 100% sure of anything other than our love for God and our love for our families? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's, at the end of the day, I know I love God and I know I love my family. Like that's 100%. Everything else, there's a lot of like, there's some stuff in there. So I would just say to the woman, you're not alone. I really do think that it is the scheme of the enemy to make us doubt ourselves as an entire gender. I mean, I've never met a woman that was 100% confident in all the things. I've never met a woman who was like nailing it, I deserve, never have I ever.
Yeah.
I do think that the enemy's biggest scheme against keeping women from the front lines of kingdom work is exactly what you just talked about. And the minute that we recognize that this is a scheme and not just my insecurity or my own doubt, we will realize like,
woo, giving me goosies, girl.
I need to step up. It brings us back to walking by faith and not by sight, right? Like to show up in the bigger room, it takes faith, friends.
It does.
Sometimes it takes faith. It takes some courage. It takes some boldness to step into the bigger space, to show up in that bigger safe space as your full self. But here's what I can tell you. God intended you to. God intended you to, because women have this beautiful way of being reliant upon Jesus. We are this beautiful vessel that knows that we need the strength of the Lord. Like we don't, it's not a wrestle for us. We know we're capable, right?
Yeah.
I've met a lot of women who internally know, yeah, I'm capable, but they still don't step into the space. And so I would say, remember, you're not alone. It's the biggest lie the enemy has given us. And God intended you to be there. So it's time to step into the space.
Oh, there you go. That is the perfect way to wrap up this episode, because holy moly, that right there just is a reminder it's time to stop playing small and stop hiding and shrinking back, because God has given you gifts to use.
That's right.
And you have kingdom work to do. And when you realize that it's the enemy that's messing with you, that's keeping you small, then it's time to get to work, because it's not about you.
That's right. It's not about us.
Yeah.
Never was.
Okay, so Carrie, tell us, where is the best place for people to connect with you and learn more about Exponential Next and Women Next?
You can just go to exponential.org and you're going to see a menu at the top. There is a Next tab. Under that Next tab, we have topic areas, and one of those, of course, is Women Next. And so that is the best way to find it. Peruse around the Next space, but specifically the Women Next space, where we're curating free content constantly from female leaders from around the world that have been where you're at, who understand what you're feeling, who can speak some truth into the spaces and places, the nooks and crannies that you maybe even haven't shared with others yet. And just know you're not alone. We're in this together, and we got your back.
Carrie, thank you so much for joining us today. One thing that really connected with me today was that the honest with yourself, honest with God, and honest with others, and the importance of having all three. I think 1 and 2 could be pretty easy, but inviting somebody else into that is next level. And this is exactly the kind of conversation I knew you would bring today. Guys, if you want to connect with Carrie, learn more about Exponential Next, all the links will be in the show notes. Friend, if today named something that you've been carrying, the specific kind of lonely that comes from leading in ministry without people who actually understand what you carry, I want to invite you into a room that was built for exactly that. And that's the Ministry Chick Network. We have everything ready for you, from courses to coaching to community to just a safe place for you to learn and connect from other women. All the information will be on the website. Just remember this, you were never meant to lead alone. I'll see you next time on the Ministry Chick Network podcast.